All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Monday, December 27, 2021. So hope everybody had a great holiday weekend here. Now time to focus back on the markets here, although the market really kind of a snooze fest to start off the week here. Although it was a bit of a loud snooze fest in a way, as we were up 1.3% here on the S&P as we got 10 minutes to the close here. So a big up day here, but you can see just one little buy program in the morning was enough to float us all the way up here. We take a look at the volume in the S&P 500 on the SPY Spider here. We are at just 41 million shares here with 10 minutes to go, so a very light volume trading session. And again, like I said, one little buy program was able to push us up 1.3%. S&P is up 5% now in the last 5 days. So here was our low here, hit the 100 moving average, 451. We're at 477 now. I said over the weekend and last week, we would get up to at least 475 here in the S&P. I had that short-term target. And I said it'd probably coincide and test this lower trend line here. We are, hitting that now. Had a little bit of a reaction off of it. Ultimately, I don't think this is the main reaction. There's no volume. I think tomorrow we probably see a bigger reaction as volume likely returns a little bit into the market. Now, if it floats up, if the volume is light until New Year's, then your uber bullish near-term target would be this topside trend line here. And that would be up in the 480 range, somewhere probably in the mid 480s for her to get up there. But like I said, S&P up 5% in 5 days. So yeah, I guess we're having a Santa rally, even though, typically what people were expecting was something more like this, where, it's just more of a sustained rally, over the course of the month of December. But really all it takes is 5 days to move 5% now, apparently. So anyways, S&P with a huge move here. And obviously near term, we could have a turnaround Tuesday, tomorrow. That would not be unexpected, especially I think volatility is starting to get pretty cheap here. I'm still expecting another little leg down in vol, at least for it to get a little bit cheaper. And then I think we're getting close to risk here. If we look at the triple Qs, we haven't looked at the weekly in a little while here, especially not the MACD. We've been watching this. Notice how we're kind of starting to wedge here. So we looked, we've talked about this divergence here on the top of the triple Qs, which is absolutely massive. And then we're now starting to see the lower low here. So now we're starting to wedge here on the MACD. And obviously which way this breaks is gonna probably be a big move in either direction. I would guess is to the downside, since we have never really satisfied this divergence. But overall, if we just take a look through on a short-term basis, or at least today, we had some nice moves in stocks like NVIDIA here, up 4%. Still has some resistance at this high bar here, 311.60. So that will be a little bit of an area. AMD with a nice move, 5% as well. That getting above resistance. The next area for this would be up around 160, although not sure if it actually gets up there. Tesla having a huge move today. I told you last week that it would get up to 1107, had a high of 117 here, and now pulling back off of that. If we look on the intraday, look right where it went, right to my target here, exceeded it by about 10 points, and then pulled back nicely. I don't know, again, I don't know if this is going to be a major reaction. It probably will at least need to pull back a little bit here. Not only did you have this trend line, which I've drawn in, you have this red bar here, and if you also draw a fib from the top right here, you hit pretty much a perfect 618. So there's three factors of resistance right there. And that's kind of, what led me to believe that it was going to pull in right around 1107 in that range. And it is doing that nicely now. Moving on here, we talked about some semis. So the semiconductor is up 2.6 here on the SMH. So semis having a nice day, looking like they want to challenge the all-time high. It's going to close above this red bar, which is the resistance, but you're going to have resistance at 318.82 as well. So right up there. We probably gap up into it tomorrow, and I think we probably pull back off of it. So that might be a good little day trading short opportunity there if you're looking for that. If we do gap up into that range, the market is kind of extended. Let's be honest, like 5% in 5 days. That's a little ridiculous. So if we get a gap up tomorrow, it could be a shorting opportunity. Anyways, we talked about IGV over the weekend, cloud software up 1.25. And the weekly, again, we got to watch for a lower high here, though. We talked about the weekly. This is starting to chop bearish here. So that's not the greatest look here, but semis are strong. There is pockets of strength here, but it's mainly the FANG stocks doing the heavy lifting. There's a lot of areas of weakness in this market. Don't let everything fool you. Look at the Russell 2000, up just 0.9%. So still a nice move, still lagging though, and still way below the highs here. So again, this is another candidate. If this makes a lower high and cannot get above these areas, you know, it's telling you that it's going to build strength to move lower if we have another leg down, which we probably should in the next couple of days. Dow Industrials via the diamond here now above this pivot. So this should be clear. I mean, this is a little minor pivot here. So this should be clear for a little bit more upside. But again, we're seeing a lot of levels of resistance sort of coincide with one another. I was just telling members in the daily video, notice how crude, this is where your resistance area is on crude, maybe the 50 MA, also kind of coinciding with this trend line here on the spiders. So a lot of things coming into resistance. We just talked about Tesla, you know, Tesla coming into resistance right here. So a lot of things coming very close or at near-term resistance levels. So I think that the near term right now is the risk is to the downside, not the upside. So I mean, we've already had such a strong move off the lows that I think now we're starting to get into an area where the risk is more to the downside. Anyways, let's move on here. Talk about yields. So 10-year basically flattish today. I mean, it's down percent, but this is basically flat for the yields. You know, in this time. I mean, bond market volatility has been crazy lately, but really just kind of consolidating inside day of yesterday. 30-year, same deal. These should move up, though. I think the 30-year probably fills this gap at some point in the next 2 weeks or so. Again, moving into the end of the year, there's a lot of window dressing and so on and so forth. So it's really hard to predict what goes on in the last week of the year. But I think once the new year starts, these should make a move here, at least to fill those gaps. We just talked about crude. We're in the money very nicely on UCO with the patrons. And by the way, my premium service will be moving from Patreon onto www.carnivoretrades.com. That link is going to be in the description. It's free to sign up right now, but eventually my Patreon premium content will be moving over there. But anyways, we are in the money very nicely on UCO, up over 20% on the second half, and this should get us to our second target around 77. After that, we'll see what happens with crude, but I think it is due to hit some resistance around the 77 handle here. Nat gas had a really strong day today. I was a little surprised. So nat gas up 9% now. Big move here. Still hasn't broken above this high. So this can still move lower. And I do expect it to move lower. And I think it's got another little leg down in it. Then I have a buy level already worked out for it. But in the near term, hey, maybe it wants to pop back up and, you know, maybe retrace a little bit of that major down move that I had a few weeks ago. XLE, XOP, OIH, all kind of just following today. XLE up nicely, 2%, finally getting a little bit of upside. Has not been had a nice bounce off the lows, but has not performed as well as crude oil, spot crude has. The same thing with the XOP and the OIH, but they are getting very nice moves today on these equities here. So OIH has been a laggard, but up 1.3 today. So we'll give it the benefit of the doubt for now. Financials, XLF, again, lagging, just getting outside of Friday's candle, or should say last Thursday's candle. But this will have resistance at this pivot up here. If it gets through that, you've got the gap fill. And broker dealers actually very strong today, though, as well, up 1.2%. So nice move there for the broker dealers. That's going to have resistance right here at this red bar high, which it is about to be into. Let's move on to the dollar. So dollar index just backing and filling, kind of holding this green bar here from last week. And ultimately on the weekly, again, looking for a move probably sometime in early next year here. Markets are closing right now. So Spider's closing right into that trend line, just above 477 there, right on that trend line. So we'll see where they can open it tomorrow, but I would expect a reaction off of this level. But anyways, dollar index obviously just consolidating, backing and filling, and not a whole lot to do there right now, but I think it will have a move early next year. Copper. So I've been talking about copper a lot lately. This getting a nice bid today, up 1 3/4. Nice pop off the lows. So copper can get through this area here at 451. So this high. Again, a lot of things, like I was just saying, a lot of things coming into local resistance right here. But nice pop on copper today. If it can get above that, then it can go challenge the highs. So copper putting in a nice weekly pattern. I'm not, I definitely don't hate that look there for copper. Gold, silver, really not a whole lot going on again. Having a decent day, I guess, up, I guess, really flat, honestly. Intraday, it was kind of all over the map. See the GLD up, down, and then finishing back with its somewhat strong close, but again, not a very inspiring move here on gold. I'm not in love with the metals right now. Silver has outperformed a little bit, though, lately, as we talked about. Possibly copper bidding up here as an industrial play. Silver is sort of reflecting that at the moment. Bitcoin, let's flip over to TradingView. So, oh, there's my other video. So Bitcoin right here, just kind of chopping sideways, and it should, it's kind of holding this little green bar bullish flag pattern here. This should get you a move up, at least to test these moving averages, but the longer it consolidates, the more minor it makes these moving averages. So again, it's still just kind of holding this pattern. It's been in a really tight range the last couple months, but I do think it does get through this area, and we do see a little bit of upside here on Bitcoin in the next couple of weeks. But in any case, I think that's about all we had really going on here. Again, just to recap, I think the risk here is to the downside in the near term. I mean, 5% in 5 days, markets typically don't do that unless they are, really getting in an overbought territory. And again, you could get more overbought. I mean, with the light volume, they could float this thing back up to this upper range of this trend line. But in the near term, though, volatility is getting pretty cheap, and puts are getting very cheap. So if I had to give it a bias, I would say that any upside here is probably getting long in the tooth. But anyways, guys, take care. Hope everybody had a great weekend, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.